write the rules. Daily wire pipeline selling Protestant tools. Avoiding Babylon. The dispensationalist lies so lame. Christianity twisted, now we calling your game. Neocon blocks falling, one Hail Mary at a time. Truth bombs dropping, boom. Catholic prom. Avoiding Babylon. Hey. Avoiding Babylon. Hey. Avoiding Babylon. Hey. Avoiding Babylon. Yay!
I told Taffy you were gonna hate it, but in a good way.
He is out of his mind, Taffy. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, he probably could have got Enoch to do like a real song for it.
Can't tell if that was an Avoiding Babylon intro video or Iranian AI propaganda video.
Yeah, right? The Iran the Iran AI propaganda is pretty funny, man. What's funny is, well, what all right, so maybe we'll do that on locals too. Rob sent over like this whole AI spreadsheet of like our channel analytics and like when our channel does best and all this stuff.
You guys want to know what it's telling us? It's telling us you guys want to hear more about the Jews.
The Jews, just talk about the Jews. It's your greatest subject. Everybody loves it. You get the most new subscribers, the greatest retention rate. And I'm like, I'm reading this and I'm going, oh, Rob's gonna hate this, but we gotta talk about the Jews. What is kind of interesting though is every time I go on vacation, I have like these crazy revelations that I have to bring to the show. They're always
dread your vacations.
They're always like end of the world stuff, and it's really funny and interesting for me, but Rob hates it. But should I do the airport story? All right. So I just got back from vacation. I told Rob I was gonna do this on the other side, but since Hope wants to hear it. So we go, my in-laws took us to the Cayman Islands and we went on a Wednesday. So we go to the airport and we're waiting for our flight and they start calling up like your section, right? Like, you know, oh, section 1 can board. Yeah. And I don't see what section I'm on the ticket, whatever, the boarding pass.
We're using the paper boarding pass or an app?
I had it on my phone. So I go up and I go up and I'm like, what section am I in? Oh, she goes, oh, you're the last one. Don't worry about it. Dude, there's only like 16 people on the whole flight, right? So I go and I sit back down and I'm on my phone and I'm scrolling and they must have gone through the sections like really quickly and I didn't hear it. All of a sudden my wife hits me. She's like, Aunt, they called our names. Essentially, they're like,
it's doom scrolling on Twitter.
So I go up all frazzled, and I'm like, because usually when you go on a plane and it's like you're on like section 7, you're the last one. You're waiting a while, and people line up, and I never saw people line up because there was only 16 people on the flight. So I go up to the counter, and I'm like, well, I guess you guys called us. And they're like, we were getting worried. We were wondering where you were because they saw we checked in, right? So they knew we were checked into the airport. So she like, we're rushing at this point, and I go behind the lady and I just push the door open, thinking that the wing to the airplane is right behind her. And it's an emergency exit. I was supposed to go to the left and down the hallway. And it sets off the alarm in the whole freaking airport. My wife just looks at me, mortified at me. And I'm just like, let's go. Dude, we're walking all the way down to the plane. And that alarm was just blaring for the entire time until we got onto the plane. The entire airport had to deal with me just like frazzled, pushing airport. Plus I was a little tipsy because it was like, we're in vacation mode. I'm just it was a mortifying experience for my wife.
JD says pray for him and his wife. They had a miscarriage.
Oh, JD, I'm sorry, brother.
So if everyone could please pray for them, that'd be great.
Pray for JD. Pray for Keith Nestor's wife. Keith Nestor's wife was just diagnosed with breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And she got better news than they were worried about. Like they were very worried it was going to be very bad. Luckily, she doesn't have to go for chemo. I don't think he did mention this publicly, right?
I saw it on Facebook.
Okay, you put it on Facebook. Okay. So yeah, he had reached out to me last week, told me about it. So keep Keith Nestor's wife in your prayers also. All right, so we go on this trip, and I'm like, before I go, I'm like, I listened to Mario from Novus Ordo Watch on with Stephen Cox talking about the Passion of the Church. And they mentioned Cardinal Manning's Present Crisis of the Holy See. And I'm like, I've never even heard of that book. I'm like, all right, let me try and read that book, and maybe I'll have some more insights, and maybe I'll be able to understand this topic better, because Mario is presenting a false passion of the church versus a true passion of the church. So I get on the plane and I have an archive of this book, and I thought I downloaded it and I didn't. So I couldn't read it on the plane.
Yeah.
But I also brought The End of the Present World. The End of the Present World, which St. Therese of Lisieux said reading this book is one of the greatest graces of my life. And I've had other people tell me that reading that book.
Who wrote that one?
Father Charles Armagnan.
Okay.
And I've had other people tell me that reading that book made them think that we were very far off from the end times.
I hate it too, Evan. I do.
Mario, I don't know what to say. You guys are all video gamed out. It's how New Yorkers say Mario. It's Mario. Anyway, so I've had people tell me that book made them think the church would triumph throughout the entire world before the end comes, which is what Christian Wagner was saying. Kind of led to the discussion I had with Majorian recently. And when I had said, look, you guys all think like we're just not in an age of triumph in the church anymore. It's just that's not the age we're in. So I read this book thinking it would dissuade me from thinking we were in such, apocalyptic times, and it did the total opposite. And I don't know why people thought that, but what this book does do is it lays out that the Antichrist coming is not the end of the world. So while we could be on the cusp of the Antichrist coming, that does not mean it's the end of the world, because this book lays out that there is a triumph after the Antichrist. So like the Antichrist is not slayed by Christ's return. He's slain by the word of Christ. Like the something about like the word of Christ slays the Antichrist. And then after that, there is this period of triumph, which kind of lines up with Our Lady saying, in the end, my immaculate heart will prevail. So that it's not that the end of the world is approaching, but we are approaching the times of Antichrist. So that kind of, that's kind of the thesis I got from that book. Now, reading Cardinal Manning, I'm baffled at why the Michael Hitchman's texted me. Okay.
He's making sure you use myth instead of legend.
No. I have to reach out to Michael after he's sitting on a big story. So I'm reading Cardinal Manning, and I'm baffled as to why Sedevacantist would point to this book, because Cardinal Manning, just a little background. Cardinal Manning is a friend of Cardinal Newman. He's an English cardinal, and he is they should have canonized him instead of Newman. Like, his writings are amazing. They're phenomenal. And like Father Amato right now, Father Amato was on our show a couple weeks back.
Yep.
He's reading Eternal Priesthood by Cardinal Manning on his YouTube channel, going like chapter by chapter. He's going through it. Just amazing stuff. Really holy man. So Cardinal Manning is adamant that the catacomb is the Pope. Okay, so like he's adamant that the restrainer that Paul speaks of in 2 Thessalonians is the Pope. Now he goes through all the fathers talking about how it is the Roman Empire, but it's also, like, Paul talks about it as if it's both a system and a person, the restrainer. And he argues that the system is the Roman Catholic Church and the person is the Pope, and that the restrainer is in his person the Pope. But Cardinal Manning is saying, like, the Antichrist will come immediately after the Pope is removed. And I'm trying to understand why the Sedes like this book, because they're their whole thesis is that there has been no pope since the council, and if it's been this long, where is the Antichrist? Like, it doesn't add up to me. Now, he says a lot of other stuff too, though, and he talks about like how the end will come about, and why even these countries, like he talks about how like the whole world is just desperate to become democracies everywhere, and with this claim of religious tolerance. And even though they have this religious tolerance for everybody, they will not have it for Catholicism, because Catholicism is not just a belief system, it is a governance system, right? Yeah. So bring up that Patrick Bet-David tweet that I sent, because this is kind of what it gets into. Maybe we'll read the Cardinal Manning stuff before we play the Patrick Bet-David thing, because...
Wait, what do you want to do now?
So I posted the video, and then I posted the 2 Cardinal Manning quotes. So I'll read those first. It's
okay, he says ready here.
Let's see. Therefore, the Church of God differs from every other society in this particular, that it is not only a communion of people who voluntarily unite together, but that it is a kingdom. It has a legislature. The line of its councils for 1800 years have sat, deliberated, and decreed with all the solemnity and majesty of an imperial parliament.
This is not what you're reading. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It has an executive which carries out and enforces the decrees of those councils with all the calmness and the peremptory decisions of an imperial will. The Church of God, therefore, is an empire within an empire, and the governors and princes of this world are jealous of it for that very reason. They say, we will not have this man to reign over us. It is precisely because the Son of God, when he came, established a kingdom upon the earth, that therefore in every land and every nation, the Catholic Church governs with the authority of the universal Church of God. For instance, in England, the little and despised flock of Catholics united together under a hierarchy of 10 years old, because this is 10 years after Catholicism was legalized in England again. The whole 10 years old, resting upon the Holy See as its center, speaks and governs with a sovereignty derived from the whole Church of God. Therefore, it is that 10 years back, the atmosphere was rent and tormented by the uproar of papal aggression. The natural instinct of the civil rulers knew that it was not a mere Christian philosophy wafted from foreign lands, but a government, a power, and a sovereignty. For this reason also, the extreme liberals, those who claim toleration for every form of opinion, and who teach that the office of the civil governor is never to enter into controversies of religion, but that all men should be left free in their belief and their conscience, and all men be at liberty before God, even they make one exception, and in the strangest contradiction to all their principles, or at least their professions, maintain that as the Catholic Church is not only a form of doctrine, but also a power of government, it must be accepted from the general toleration. So play the Patrick Bet-David clip. The Patrick Bet-David clip, look at why he doesn't like Catholics. He also gets into like why Protestantism, before you play it, Protestantism, he's like the difference is like Protestants, there's no attempt to govern your will in Protestantism. There might be, but if the Baptists say one thing, you go, I'm done with this. I'm going to go over to the Presbyterians. If the Presbyterians tell you something you don't like, you go, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go over to this branch. And you just keep doing that. But as a Catholic, you don't have that ability. The Catholic Church has government over your will. So the Patrick Bet-David clip is really interesting.
Catholics, have this issue with Jews. I don't know what it is. They have this, I don't, listen, I get the Jews have issues with Christians, and they'll make fun, and they'll say stuff like, oh, your Jesus is going to do, they'll say, well, he was a Jew anyways, right? Yeah. But then Catholics have that issue with Jews. And they act like, they're all innocent and everything. And when you look at Catholics, the amount of centralized power they have. Centralized. If you know what the total Catholic population is worldwide? It's like 1.213 billion. Jews are 15 million.
15 million.
But Jews are decentralized, meaning Jews don't have
taking
somebody
issue
they listen
with the fact that the church is a government, right? Like the church is a government. They're centralized. The other guy goes on to say that the Vatican is there's only two theocracies. One's in Iran and one is in the Vatican. And he's right that the Vatican's a theocracy, but
yeah, for a city, a small city state.
But this is what Cardinal Manning's talking about. It's like those who have religious toleration, like even them, they can't stand for this. That there's something about Catholicism that's not just a belief system, there's a governing structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Cardinal Manning is insisting that the Pope is the catacomb and that towards the end of the world, he gets into the destruction of Rome, right? He talks about how Rome will like return to its former pagan ways. And he cites all the fathers on this. Like he cites all the church fathers on this. And he talks about how Rome will even cast off they'll cast off the vicar of Christ. They will cast off the Pope. Like they will return to their former pagan ways. So I might have forgot to send this one to you, but we read in the book of Apocalypse of the city of Rome that she said in the pride of her heart, I sit as the queen and am no widow. And so that he's going through the first destruction of Rome. There was never a destruction upon earth comparable to the overthrow of Rome in ancient days. St. Gregory the Great, writing of it, says, Rome, a little while ago, was seen to be the mistress of the world. What she now is, we behold, crushed by manifold and boundless miseries, right? So he then goes on, where is he talking about it? Okay, so here. The writers of the church tell us that in the latter days, the city of Rome will probably become apostate from the church and the vicar of Jesus Christ, and that Rome will again be punished, for he will depart from it. Which is why it was really interesting when we saw that Christopher Hale story pop up and with like the references to the Avignon papacy talking about removing the Pope from Rome. And I don't know how true that story is, but there's significance to this. Is why Catherine of Siena is because people bring up Catherine of Siena all the time about how she went up against the Pope, right? But what is she going up against him for? He's in France, he's in Avignon, and she's telling him, no, the Pope needs to be in Rome.
Yep.
And she understands this. She's like, she thinks that the Antichrist is going to appear.
Well, I think it's important to recognize the world in which Cardinal Manning is writing this in. He published this in 1860. And in 1860 is when the Risorgimento, the unification of Italy, was more or less completed. Rome wasn't captured, but it looked like Rome was going to be captured by, the Freemason Garibaldi.
Yeah.
Rome ends up being captured 10 years later. And the Pope is basically held captive in Vatican City then until 1929. But I mean, it was. I imagine there was a sense of apocalypse at that point. He's thinking this Freemason's going to come and capture the Pope in Rome, and
it's so interesting what he does. He's like, he's going through all the different things that need to happen for the Antichrist to appear, and he's like, could we not envisage some man coming about that would promise the return of the Jewish people to Israel? Because he talks about, dude, he goes through how the Antichrist needs to be the Jewish Messiah, like thoroughly. Everybody, if you've never read this book, I sat down and I read this book in 3 hours. It is a phenomenal book. It's called The Present Crisis of the Holy See. It's on archive.org for free. It is amazing. He goes through even talking about how the church subdues the earth and how like the bishops are sitting on thrones as catacombs, preventing the city of Babylon, like the spirit of Babylon, from returning, but that there's always this fight for the spirit of Babylon to return, but that Christ's kingdom is what is keeping this spirit at bay, and in particular in the person of the Pope. So the writers of the church tell us that in the latter days, the city of Rome will become apostate from the church and the vicar of Jesus Christ, and that Rome will again be punished, for he will depart from it, and the judgment of God will fall on the place from which he once reigned over the nations of the world. For what is it that makes Rome sacred but the presence of the vicar of Christ? What has it that should be dear in the sight of God, save only the presence of his vicar and son? Let the church of Christ depart from Rome, and Rome will become no more in the eyes of God than Jerusalem of old. Jerusalem, the holy city, chosen by God, was cast. I forgot. It kind of messed up there. In the time of Antichrist, Rome shall be destroyed, as we see openly from the 13th chapter of the Apocalypse. And again, the woman who thou sawest is the great city, which hath kingdom over the kings of the earth, and which is signified Rome and its impiety, such as it was in the time of St. John, and shall be again in the end of the world. Bellarmine says, in the time of Antichrist, Rome shall be desolated and burnt. And we learn from the 16th verse of the 17th chapter of the Apocalypse, on which the words of Jesuit Herbermann comments as follows: we all confess with Bellarmine that the Roman people, a little before the end of the world, will return to paganism and drive out the Roman pontiff. Viegas on the 18th chapter of the Apocalypse says, Rome in the last age of the world, after it is apostatized from the faith, will attain to great power and splendor of wealth, and its sway will be widely spread throughout the world and flourish greatly. Living in luxury and abundance of all things, it will worship idols and be steeped in all kinds of superstition, and will pay honor to false gods. And because of the vast effusion of the blood of the martyrs, which was shed in the emperors, God will most severely and judgely avenge them. It goes through all of this about how, like, the city of Rome. Now, this lines up with Our Lady in Fatima, right? Like, Our Lady's prophecy in Fatima is about a city in ruins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it sounds like she's talking about Rome in that prophecy, in the third secret. She's talking about Rome as a city in ruins, arrows and war coming to it and all this stuff. So I'm going through all this, and I'm like, I don't understand why the Sedes are pointing to this book, but it does seem like there's going to be now. I have always seen what has happened to the church since the council as a series of events. Oh, so Cardinal Manning also talks about this. He says, just like Jesus roams through the crowds and they want to stone him and push him off cliffs, but they can't lay a finger on him because his hour had not yet come. And they can't do anything to him until he willingly gives up his life, right? What I always saw since the council, Pope Paul laying down the papal tiara, right? Like, all of these successive things happening with the papacy since the council, as all of these different acts of Peter kind of laying down his authority. And what's really interesting is when you get into Benedict, because Benedict resigning, this is what made me go down this road, is because
didn't you know he was drugged and the Vatican's currently investigating it?
LifeSite, what are you doing, LifeSite? Seriously, what are you guys doing over there? Like, I don't even know what to do with this stuff anymore, honestly.
Clicks are drying up under Leo.
I don't know. If you guys want to watch trash like that, go ahead. I don't know, man. We're trying to look at stuff that's a little more interesting, and I don't know what these guys are doing. The Pope was drugged, and the CIA forced Benedict to resign. It's like, I don't know what you guys are doing. I'll tell you what I think Benedict was doing. Benedict repeatedly kept trying to get our attention to go to Tychonius. Okay. Tychonius is a 4th century. He's writing in the year 390. He's a contemporary of Augustine, but he's a Donatist. Okay. But he does a commentary on the Apocalypse that it's kind of shaped the Latin West and how it's how Augustine saw it with the city of God and the city of man. And Benedict really liked Tychonius. He wrote a paper on him in 1956. Then when people asked him about the third secret of Fatima, he talked about Tychonius again. And he's like, well, we really have to understand this from a Tychonius' perspective. And he kept trying to get people to understand this. Now, this was discussed in like the Ratzinger Code and stuff like that. But in denouncing the hypocrisy, I'm going to go to the Tychonius stuff in Telegram if you want to bring that up. In denouncing the hypocrisy of the bishops, Tychonius gives an account of the second beast introduced in Apocalypse 13:11. And I saw another beast coming up out of the land, and he had 2 horns similar to those of a lamb, and he spoke as a snake. So Tychonius decries, a lamb carries on after a snake, secretly inserts its venom, For if he spoke openly as a snake, he would not be similar to a lamb. Now he fashions himself into a lamb, through which disguise he attacks a secure lamb. So he's talking about the bishops, wolves in sheep's clothing. He speaks for God, though, which disguise he turns away from the way of truth, those seeking God. Because of this, the Lord said, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Tychonius concludes this passage with one of his most incisive observations. The bishops do, under the guise of a gift of the church, what advances the will of the devil. The bishops offer to the beast the veneer of a lamb while he uses them as a mouthpiece for his agenda. In another passage, St. John's Apocalypse continues, and I saw 3 unclean spirits go forth from the mouth of the dragon, and from the mouth of the beast, and from the mouth of the false prophet. Tychonius remarks, for the dragon, that is the devil, and the beast, the body of the devil, and the false prophets. That is, the bishops of the body of the devil are one spirit. Furthermore, Tychonius declares the throne of the beast is his church. Okay, so Tychonius' theory is this. The world is made up of like a tripartite. You have the body of Christ, you have those outside of the church are the body of the devil, and then part of the body of the devil subsides inside the church. Okay, so it's like a tripartite. It's so now the body of the devil is inside the church, and the body of Christ is, and it's a force always at war with one another. Okay, now his point is the great apostasy at the end of time is not going to be a large majority of people falling away from the church and leaving the church. He's saying the church herself will apostatize. The church, the bishops will become apostate, and that the true church will have to withdraw from that. Okay. Now that sounds like he's advancing the Sede thesis. And you're wondering, like, why is Benedict telling us to read this? Because it really does sound like he's advancing the Sede thesis. So on account of the duplicitous bishops that will under his sway, those treacherous bishops will give shape and form to the devil's body, the false church, even after the true church has detached herself from it. Down on page 2. Once the apostasy has been enacted, however, the bride of Christ, the true church, will then be battling not only the false brothers, but the heathen world as well, which will have joined forces with the false brothers in an openly united demonic front. To the whole body of the devil, it was permitted by God, yet there is no question in Tychonius' mind of the final outcome for the church. The last persecution will purify her up until the 7th trumpet, which will mark the coming of the Lord. That will be the church of the future time when, with the wicked already separated from the midst, only the good will reign with Christ. Thus, Tychonius is certain that the church of the last time, whether in its bishops or in its people, is in no way able to perish. Although she will be persecuted like her bridegroom and even appear defeated, she cannot be permanently destroyed. She shares in the bridegroom's divine life. Furthermore, she will prevail over the Antichrist and ultimately rout out the false church. Nevertheless, Tychonius had no illusions about the severity of that ultimate conflict and what might be the most lucid and pristine section of his entire exposition. When drawing the parallel between Christ and his church, he emphasizes their interconnectedness. That which the head suffered once, now he suffers through his members. Since he has clothed himself with his church, and the church is slain daily for Christ, that it may live with him forever, no one should think that the apostles alone had died for Christ, and now martyrdom has ceased, and that the persecutors are not in the church. For it is necessary that the Son of Man always goes to Jerusalem to suffer many things from the elders and the chief priests and scribes, to be killed and rise again after 3 days. He's saying kind of stuff that we've been talking about on this show, right? Like, there's going to be some kind of scenario where the church hierarchy, along with the Sanhedrin, persecutes the faithful. Okay, this is like the church and anti-church growing together. You could go into looking at Archbishop Fulton Sheen. He talks about how the anti-church, for all appearances and likenesses, it will appear as though it's the church. We see this in Cardinal Supich and Cardinal McElroy and all those guys, right? Like, we see this happening in the church in our midst. It seems like Benedict is like giving the Sede thesis that the true church, because Benedict's the one urging us to read this stuff. So we'll get through all of it, and then I'll kind of give my thoughts on it, because Tychonius is a Donatist.
Mhm.
Right? Like Tychonius is a Donatist, and Donatists, they were the ones who didn't want to allow people who, under the Roman persecution, when they wanted to give a pinch of incense to Caesar, the people who caved and gave the pinch of incense out of fear, but then repented after the persecution was over, the Donatists did not want to let those people back in the church.
And not just that, overall they believed that grave sin could invalidate like ordination.
Yeah.
So priests and bishops who had committed grave sin were no longer valid priests and bishops.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Right? Sounds familiar. So this is, and the thing is, the Sedes have this Donatist spirit too. Like they want this pure church, and they think like that, like the Pope said something he shouldn't have said, or that invalidates his. And this is kind of my whole argument with the Sedes is like,
or the Pope was caught in a photo in 1995.
Yeah, and that it's like, oh, he's a communist because he was at a rally.
He was at a rally that didn't want nuclear weapons in Italy. Must be a fake Pope.
So it's like, I think the Sedes are not wrong in theory. I think they're jumping the gun, right? So we'll go through all of this real quick. Hang on. Thus, in that culminating persecution, when the false brethren and the pagan world relentlessly attack the church, the commingling of suffering between Jesus and his mystical body and bride will reach its apex. In her, the Lord completes what he began. Therefore, in her, he receives what he gave and is crowned her. And he is crowned in her. Why am I having a hard time finding on that line? Whom he crowns, for there is nothing that he does or has without his body. Jesus gave his life for his bride, the church. In the end times, she will give herself for him in a way that she never has before. Jesus, just as Jesus glorified his Father through his self-offering, and so also his Father glorified him with the glory that his Son had with him before the world began. So also at that time, the church's ultimate self-offering will be her crowning moment of giving herself completely for Christ, and he in turn will crown her. He and his bride will then be perfectly one in their mutual gift of self. Seen in the light of Tychonian theology, Benedict XVI's various comments about the significance of the messages of Fatima take on a new significance. It becomes apparent that Benedict understands the message of Fatima within the context of Tychonius's assertions that the greatest evil for the church in the end times is the evil hidden within her. Look, we see this in the abuse crisis.
Yeah,
like that there's evil within the church, right? We all have this view that the gates of hell will not prevail. That means the church this could never happen in the church, right? And there's even an aspect where like the Protestants will call the church the whore of Babylon. Like in some mystical way, a segment of the church will be the whore of Babylon in some mystical sense. Not the true church, not the true church. The true church is the spotless bride of Christ, but the body of the devil that is within the church, the wicked members, the sheep and the goat grow together, the wheat and the tares grow together. And the church has tolerated this throughout all of the centuries. And she's constantly fought this evil within her at all times. There's always been heretic bishops. But at the end time, this evil will overcome the church and the true church will have to withdraw. But that time is at the time of Antichrist. It's not after the Second Vatican Council and you just decide there's no Pope on the seat. During Benedict's pilgrimage to Fatima in 2010, a reporter asked the Holy Father, "Your Holiness, what meaning do the Fatima apparitions have for us today?" In June 2000, when you presented the text, a number of our colleagues were present. You were asked if the message could be extended beyond the attack on Pope John Paul II. Oh wait, I don't know if I didn't put his whole comment. So yeah. So back to Cardinal Manning. Cardinal Manning, he's getting at this also. Let no one then be scandalized if the prophecies speak of sufferings to come. We are fond of imagining triumphs and glories for the church on earth, that the gospel is to be preached to all nations, that the world be converted and all enemies subdued. And I know not what, until some ears are impatient of hearing that there is in store for the church a time of terrible trial. And so we do as the Jews of old, who looked for a conqueror, a king, and for prosperity. And when their messiahs came in humility and in the passion, they did not know him. So I am afraid many among us intoxicate their minds with the visions of success and victory and cannot endure the thought that there is a time of persecution yet to come for the church of God. Like, dude, when I'm reading this, I'm like, these are the conversations we've been having on this freaking show for months. Let us hear, therefore, the words of the prophet Daniel, speaking of the person in whom St. John calls the Antichrist, whom he calls the king that shall work according to his own will. The prophet Daniel says, he shall speak words against the high one, that is the Almighty God, and shall crush the saints of the Most High. Against, he says, I don't know what that, F it, that is the power of this king, was magnified even unto the strength of heaven, and it threw down the strength of the stars, trod upon them, and it was magnified even to the prince of the strength. So, all right, so he's just saying, like, do not think this stuff can't come. Like, this is prophesied, right? And when I'm reading the end of the present world, also talking about how this stuff comes, and then the triumph of the whole world converting and every knee bows and confesses, that all comes in this triumphal period after the Antichrist is slain. So there's a ton going on here that I'm like, even and to look at even Leo, right? Like, Leo is not a great pope, man. Like, I'm not crazy about Leo at all. I'm looking at him. He was elected to be a foil for Trump. Like, he was elected for political reasons to be a foil for Trump.
That's not
like the
that's
sole
not
reason.
Well, I'm just saying that's not abnormal throughout church history.
No, not at all, right? But do people not see in God's providence that maybe Trump needs a foil? And even if our reasons aren't the right reasons, God can use, like, we may
even
have
if
our own
Leo's
designs.
reasons aren't the right reasons.
Yeah, like we may have our own designs on things, but God's providence can use things for however he, like, all things work for the good for those who believe in God. Like, God is always working through history. The history is his story. He decides how things work, right? So these bishops elect Leo thinking he's going to be a foil to Trump, and he is one. Leo says the most mundane thing about this war. He says, I hope that all sides come to peace and have dialogue. And Trump loses his mind. And it's like, clearly Leo is still a restrainer of some kind, right?
Yeah.
Like, even in his weakness as Pope, right? Even in his weakness, that we see him as like, man, maybe he was elected by the liberals and whatever. Like, even in his weakness, he is still restraining the Antichrist. Now, I think this whole thing with Tucker presenting Trump as the Antichrist is nonsense. Like, I don't think Trump is the Antichrist, but he's still acting as a Jewish Messiah. He's still doing antichristic things. He's still a type of Antichrist. I think he's more of a chaos agent that is going to bring complete chaos to the world. And then maybe the Antichrist comes and brings order out of chaos and then presents himself as the fake Prince of Peace, mimicking our Lord, something like that. But the point is, there's still an element where when you see PBD lashing out because the church has this governance structure, and when you see Trump lashing out because Leo's like, yeah, I think that this war is unjust. Or he didn't even say that. He didn't even comment on specifically on the Iran war. It's like, and then you're seeing people saying Leo should stay in his lane. What is that? What do you mean stay in his lane? He's the Pope. Like, the Pope is always like, what are you talking about? But it just shows that Leo is still a restrainer, but also to the angle of Cardinal Manning talking about the Pope. Like, the Pope has to lay down his life. He doesn't just get taken out by force, because no one can lay a hand on him, just like our Lord has to give himself willingly. Like, I think Benedict, looking at this Tychonian thing, seeing all this, I think Benedict's resignation was a moment where he saw himself as laying down, right? Like, it really does seem like that. And then as he does that, you get this really shady election of Francis come, you get the Pachamama stuff happens, like all this crazy stuff happens. And I'm just imagining Benedict sitting there and really thinking that that's what was happening. Like, he's allowing this anti-church to gain power within the confines of the church. Because
Yeah.
Benedict really did see himself as living in the apocalypse. Like, and so did John Paul II. John Paul II was constantly talking about the final battle and the final confrontation between the church and the anti-church will be over marriage and the family, will be over all. He was constantly talking about us being in the end times. They both were very familiar with Fatima. It's just really interesting when you get into all of this, and we're looking at all of this stuff happening, and we're looking at the Sedes and the way they go. They elected Leo because he's a left-leaning American, all to bring on Chrislam for the New World Order.
My question for you: would you rather have Chrislam or Holocaustianity?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, I made a point the other day about like Leo talking about peace with Muslims, and people were taking what I said so completely out of context.
No, that never happens on Twitter.
I was responding to E. Michael Jones. And E. Michael Jones was talking about, he's like, I couldn't understand why these Muslims had this fascination with Our Lady and all this stuff. And I said, I said, it is very likely that Our Lady appeared in Fatima as almost like a portend to the end, because the only woman mentioned in the Quran is Our Lady, and the only like woman mentioned with any kind of respect is also Muhammad's daughter Fatima. And I think Our Lady appeared in Fatima because when the church talks about the Muslims still have a role to play in salvation history. I forget what they said in Vatican II. What do they say? Like the Muslims too play a role in salvation history or something? Something like that. Like I don't even, like I don't understand. I don't remember exactly what the wording was, but my point is about the in some sense, the Muslims are also the seed of Abraham because they claim to be the descendants of Ishmael. And there will be a unification of brothers at the end of time, right? The Jews are going to convert. Now, this also happens after the Antichrist, by the way. Like the Jews fall for the Antichrist. They recognize him as their Messiah, and then he turns on them, and then they will bow to the church, and they will say, what is it? Apocalypse 3:9. Apocalypse 3:9. Where is it? Let me bring it up.
Let me see.
I don't want to misquote scripture. So behold,
we can't say that.
Behold, I will make those of the synagogue who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow before your feet and learn that I have loved you. And that's a flipping of the Isaiah prophecy about them thinking that the nations will bow before them. They will then have to, the Jews, the ones who betrayed our Lord, will then have to bow before the church. That's a flipping of that prophecy. So my point is, Our Lady appeared in Fatima as kind of like a glimpse at this reunification of the brothers at the end of time. And I haven't talked about it yet. I haven't said
no. Read the second part.
Okay. Let me finish my point and then we'll get to that. There's going to be a unification of the brothers, which we have talked about how many times on this show. We don't have to go through all that again. But yes, there will be a conversion of Muslims and Jews to the true church, not through human fraternity. My point is that the modern hierarchy, because they are on this path towards apostasy, are pitching human fraternity because they are reading the scriptures with a carnal mind, as the Jews do. So instead of conversion and converting the Jews and converting the Muslims, they're saying, let's just have an Abrahamic faith house and have human fraternity. And they're doing it through a Freemasonic lens. This will blow up in their faces. It's going to. The thing with the Sedes is, like, I see the thing they're talking about. Like, yes, this stuff is all happening in the church. There is going to be this evil entity. There is an anti-church that is coming. But that does not invalidate sacramental orders. That does not invalidate ordinations. None of that. It doesn't invalidate the jurisdiction of these bishops. None of that is invalidated. It's not like ordination is not a magic spell. It's not like, oh, they changed the wording of it, now it's invalid, because they question the ordinations of every priest after the council. It's like the church has the authority to change these things. You may not like the new wording of it. The church has the authority to change the presentation of how the sacraments are celebrated. You may not like it, and yeah, no, we're not crazy about the new missal, but the church does have the authority to do it. And in my view, it is God allowing that to happen because of these times that we're coming up on. It doesn't mean your mass is invalid. It doesn't mean your priests are invalid. It doesn't mean your sacraments are invalid. None of that. It's just
unless they use sangria.
Yeah, unless they say we baptize you, because we've seen the nightmare that comes from this stuff. All of it is God allowing. Look, we know that God puts to the Jews themselves, he gives them a hardness of heart, right? Like he gives the Jews a hardness of heart for a period. And I think he's allowing the things in the church to happen for a reason. And it's to reveal the mystery of iniquity. Like the apocalypse is the unveiling of the mystery of iniquity. It is about the unveiling of this anti-church within the church, this body of the devil within the church. That is the whole point in the catechism when it talks about in 675 that this pseudo-messianism is going to come and that the mystery of iniquity will be unveiled. That is the apocalypse that we're waiting on. And it is to restore us. It is to purify us. Like this whole thing is happening in order to purify us. And you're going to see Christ separate the sheep from the goats. You're going to see him separate the wheat from the tares, but in his time. We don't get to choose that. No, look, we're in a rough spot on this show because I hate what most of the trads are doing. I'm not a Pope splainer. Like, you guys see the way I talk about this stuff. So we kind of land in this position where we don't have any allies anymore. Like, we really don't have anybody. Everybody else is doing their Leo is an anti-Pope thing, and these ones are like, I don't know. This is the kind of stuff I want to talk about because this is the stuff that I actually find interesting, first off. But also, like, we have to have a position of humility in this thing and beg God that, like, we don't miss you. That, like, please, God, like, I don't want to be like the hard-hearted Jews that they were so set in their ways and they had a set way that they expected things to happen that when they didn't happen the way they thought they would, they missed it. So the things we're talking about is more about like, yeah, like I don't think the Sedes are crazy. I think they actually have a very valid, like what they're seeing is they're
crazy, man.
They're viewing the things that are happening like with a proper understanding that this stuff is not good. Like this stuff, like what you're seeing in, you know, even in Leo resisting Trump, and then he sends McElroy and Supich out. Like that's horrible. Like those aren't the guys you want to do this. And in some weird way, like,
I don't think Leo sent those guys out.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though. Like they're, you know, that's the guys that are representing Leo on the public stage right now. And it's like the thing that it sounds like Cardinal Manning is saying is going to happen is that there's going to be some way that the anti-church unites with the pagan world to persecute us. Like we saw glimpses of this in the hierarchy. Like France is punishing trads and taking away their, like there's hints of these things that are to come. Like this is God giving you foreshadows of the things to come. And my point with that whole episode where I went off was like, guys, this is a foreshadow of events to come. They're taking your mass away. Okay, we got to go celebrate it in a gymnasium. Okay, we still have the mass. You guys don't even know what's going to come down the line if this stuff is happening. And it seems like this is what's happening. And we don't know the timeline it lays out. This could be decades or whatever. I mean, it's been going on for however long it has, but this does seem to be the trajectory we are on.
But it's important to point out that if and when it does happen, it's not necessarily going to be just like the left Caths uniting with a, you know, Democrat government to persecute us. It is just as likely, as we've seen over the last week or two, that it's going to be so-called conservative Catholics uniting with MAGA to persecute
Yeah,
us.
dude, that's why I'm saying, like, we all have this idea in our head that it's going to play out a certain way, and you don't know how it's going to play out. Here's what I know: like, this stuff isn't really about Trump versus Leo, right? This stuff isn't about conservative versus Republican. This stuff is about the church versus the anti-church.
Yeah.
Like, we have to see this on a more mystical way. We have to see this on a deeper level. We have to see this from all the stuff we've talked about with the older brother and that stuff. And you have to mix in some of this stuff of like the persecution coming from the hierarchy. And we all have to have a humility about us and just say, God, I don't know what's going to happen, but please don't let me miss you. Like, I don't ever want to be on the side that is persecuting the church. And what I'm watching happening in the public right now, like, what I don't ever want to face judgment for castigating the vicar of Christ. I don't care how poor of a job he's doing. Dude, I don't even care. Like, you go back, we never really criticized Francis. We criticized some documents and stuff. We never like went at Francis. So I see some people saying like, oh, the same trads who ragged on Francis. You know, we were always careful about that. Always. You'll never find a tweet of mine where, I mean, I don't think, and if I do, I'll retract it and I'll apologize. But I don't think you'll find a single tweet of me like calling Francis an anti-pope or anything like that. We may have had some discussions where we entertained the idea he might have been an anti-pope. I'm still not opposed to the idea that he could have been an anti-pope.
I don't believe there's that. I don't believe he was an anti-pope. I mean, I still hold to the idea that he was just personally a mean, vindictive bastard. But he was the Pope.
Majorian is just being like, I'm tired of your contrarian BS lately, Majorian. Knock it off. Come up with something insightful to bring and not just criticism, and I'll entertain it. But lately it's just criticism. Like, it's the same. Like, I want to hear some insights from people. Like, give me something insightful, not just, oh, you're over spiritualizing things. Like, no, tell me what the hell's happening then. Give me I'm waiting for anyone who tells me I'm wrong about this stuff to give me a coherent argument against it, because I haven't really seen anybody come up with something to tell me this is why you're wrong. Bobby said, I think the purpose of Benedict pushing these ideas forward is to make sure that the faithful are not so scandalized that we apostatize when we see the hierarchy do it. Wicked hierarchy doesn't justify apostasy. 100% correct.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, especially when, like, during the reign of Antichrist and the sacraments are taken away, like, the public sacrifice of the mass will be taken away, but there will be masses in catacombs. And that's why I'm always saying, like, if you know a good faithful priest, like, make friends with him and like have a relationship with him. Don't just go to mass, go through your thing, and then just disappear. Like, make friends with your local priest, because you don't know the times that are ahead. I mean, we witnessed it in 2020 where the sacraments were taken away for a pandemic. And during that time, I was blessed enough to have a few priests in my life that I was still able to go to confession during that time. I was still able to receive communion, even when the masses were shut down, because they were publicly not available, but there were some underground masses that I was able to go to. And priests need friends. Absolutely. Yeah, look, it's like, I don't know. I look at the stuff that like Majorian pops in the last 10 minutes of the show and makes a comment like that. Go watch the whole show, learn something, idiot. Like, I love you, Majorian, but like the last couple of days, it's like you don't say, like, it's not about a psyop. Like, dude, listen to me. Why do you think the FBI was infiltrating traditional parishes? Like, what was the purpose of that? The purpose of that was not because trads were going to go bomb something or they were a threat. The purpose of that is for the FBI to learn what are some of the tensions within the traditional Catholic world. How can we use this to amplify division amongst Catholics? Not that they're causing it, because we are stupid enough that we fight with each other, of course, but they'll find ways to amplify the division, because a divided church is way less useful against a power like that. Like, all this stuff you're seeing in the media, General Flynn, bring up freaking General Flynn's tweet. Like, I've never seen a more retarded tweet. Look, and don't tell me it's not a psyop when I see Steve Bannon pushing it, Jack Posobiec pushing it. I see, like, literally all the intel guys are pushing this retarded thing. Oh, it's not a psyop. So you don't have to, not everything's a psyop. Well, sometimes things are a psyop. This was the prominent Catholic Church in Florida today. This type of information warfare against MAGA, against President Trump, is just the beginning. It's dangerous and very political. It's fifth generational, and most definitely it's spiritual warfare. Who started the freaking drama? Trump did. Like, I don't understand this.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
Trump is the one
clear.
that started this beef with Pope Leo. Oh, this is fifth generational warfare. They're trying to ruin the midterms. Are you people that retarded at this point? Like, are we really talking about midterms? Have you really, like, are you guys still on the I'm voting? Like, I am sorry, guys. Like, we are way beyond, hey, we have to get some Republicans in so that they can, why? What are they conserving? What are they doing? You really think we're voting our way into anything? I don't care. Honestly, I'm an accelerationist. Let the freaking Democrats get in. Maybe we'll develop some real opposition to it. And the Democrats it's the same thing. It's the same damn party. Who cares? It is the same party.
Did you see it?
One of them lets trans people in sports, the other doesn't.
Did you see how an hour before the show started, the Justice Department announced they're going after the SPLC because the SPLC has been.
You know what else I saw? I saw what's her name? The freaking national security lady. What's her name? Tulsi Gabbard comes out and announces we found some new Russiagate stuff, guys. Oh, the statute of limitations 10 years ago is like no statute of limitations. Nobody's going to jail. This is all theater. Who cares? Oh, Obama orchestrated the Russiagate. Who didn't know that? Who didn't know Obama orchestrated the Russiagate? Like, who cares about this stuff? So ridiculous. Nobody ever goes to jail. Nobody ever gets in trouble. All of them are in on it. Who cares? It's all theater. It's all dumb. I'm trying to talk to you guys about something way bigger than politics right now. I don't care about the damn midterms. They're ridiculous stupidity. But go back to General Flynn's thing. Listen to what he says further into that tweet. Look at how dumb this is. Go down further. Keep going. It is shocking how many Catholics are upset at Trump currently. It shows the unhealthy allegiance that they hold for any man, including the Pope. You psychopath.
He says that he has unyielding allegiance to Trump. Like, are you joking?
Like this, dude, I don't think Trump's the Antichrist, but what he has revealed to me is how people can worship a man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even like Leo. But like, I can see through this nonsense and I can look at it from like a perspective and just go, well, look, I may not be crazy. I wish we had a real Pope who was going to sit there and excommunicate the heretics. I wish that was happening. It's not going to happen. But what I do see is he's still the vicar of Christ and he still is in some way a restrainer of the man of lawlessness coming out. And I'm learning this from reading Saints of the Church, and I'm learning this from reading pre-conciliar stuff. This isn't post-conciliar stuff. You're going into church fathers and doing that. But the story isn't a doom pill either. It's a story of triumph and like the triumph of the church. But it's also one of preparation, like preparing ourselves for the things to come. First off, I love Majorian. I'm on a rant. I'm sorry, brother. You can infiltrate institutions and subvert them and flip them back. It's what the left did again. Oh, the left. Dude, stop. Get out of the left, right.
I was gonna say those institutions were never ours, Majorian.
Dude, get out of the left, right dialectic, man. Like, you're literally just doing the left, right dialectic. Bro, this is literally Kabbalistic witchcraft. Like, I'm sorry, man. It really is. It's Hegelian dialectic. He's like right versus left. Dude, shut up. They're all the same thing. Like, honestly, man, you're playing at the kiddie table talking about this shit. We're talking about something way bigger here. If you would like, my wife said, can you please stop screaming? Majority, we can come on and talk about this in person, man. How you all right? I would love to hear your problem solving. Honestly, like I would love, because you know what it is. I see all you young whippersnappers, and you think you're gonna make a political movement. I love it. It's cute. It's adorable. It's adorable. You're gonna get a political, like Taffy's into that too. He's like, no, man, we're finally gonna get some. Sorry, guys. You're not going to convince me about a political movement. I'm sorry. I mean, I'll entertain it and I'll help in any way I can. But as long as you're talking right, left dialectic stuff, you're playing into this, like, it's Kabbalah witchcraft, bro. I'm just telling you. They get you to think like it's divide and conquer stuff. It's like, you're fighting against each other and you're never looking at the real enemy when you do that. Okay.
You forgot again.
And what's sad is I had oh man, dude, the fact is there's no salvation outside the Black Monk Rosary. There is no salvation outside the Black Monk. The thief on the cross was saved by praying 10 Hail Marys on a Black Monk Rosary. That's the tweet. Send it. No, we love Black Monk Rosary, man. Honestly.
I went and got my 3 blessed by our priest this weekend. And he wanted to know where the heck we got rosaries at, where like this substantial.
I'm actually going to order a few and send them as gifts to some of my priest friends. One of them's probably watching tonight, so I guess I kind of ruined the surprise. But they do take a long time to ship, Father. I'm just letting you know. But I'm going to get a Black Monk Rosary sent out.
Because they're handmade by his wife.
Are they really? That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Get 10% off an amazing Black Monk Rosary by going to blackmonkrosary.com. Use code Avoiding Babylon at checkout, 10% off. Guys, honestly, like, if you don't have a Black Monk Rosary, you're not on the team, first off. And
we're not allowed to say that, but okay.
I'm allowed to say that. Copyright Taylor Marshall right now. I'll fight him over this. Taylor, we should send one to Taylor and tell him, Taylor, you're not on the team unless you're praying that rosary, the Black Monk Rosary. We had a consultation with a potential sponsor yesterday too. Like, we love our sponsors, man. They're all fans of the show. Every one of those sponsors that we have are people who watch the show and enjoy the show. Like, we don't take sponsorships from people that are just like no name and, you know, whatever. So if you guys,
I literally have not responded to Real Estate for Life.
I love the old guys. Wait, where did he say it? Where is it? I love the old guys calling me naive who sat on their asses while the culture degree. I voted for Trump, bro. I did something. Majority, come on. We'll shoot the shit and we'll figure out. I want to hear your actual perspective on like your game plan, because I haven't heard a game plan from anybody. I that's all I want to hear. I want to hear a game plan from some of you guys. Like, what's the plan? I don't want to hear just not everything's a psyop. No, not everything is a psyop, but like some things are a psyop. And what we're seeing right now, forget psyop. Like, it's just a way to divide us, because Catholics, when they are united on something, are dangerous. We brought down communism. Like, we are a danger.
Not really.
Them. You know what I mean.
We're kind of full of communism right now, but
yeah, but we brought down the Berlin Wall, and we brought down the Soviet Union.
Yeah, but if we had to, if World War II had been a little different, we wouldn't have had to do that.
I know, but you can't just stop being, you know what I mean? Like,
I've been Catholics, agreeable all episode.
I know, yeah. Well, you've been. I do appreciate that, though. Thank you, actually. I know that's actually like really hard for you, but yeah, no, you have been very agreeable all episode. You didn't push back on very much of anything. So, I think Catholics, when they are united, especially if they have a Pope pushing it, like, that's a dangerous thing. So if they see, like, the Pope brought down the Soviet Union when John Paul II was in. So if they see Pope Leo as something against Trump, their main thing is, okay, let's divide the Catholics so they don't have that same pressure on Trump that they had on Gorbachev. Like, you guys are not, look, I'm sorry. If you guys can't see that, you're really missing something. Like, that's actually really, oh, look who's back. My groupie.
Ooh.
My groupie's back.
Which one?
Oh, my groupie's back. Call me the #1 enemy to Sedevacantism. I think I'm honored that you think that highly of
The
me,
number
bro.
one enemy to Sedevacantism is his
He called me the
homosexuality.
#1 enemy to Sedevacantism. A high school dropout. A high school dropout podcaster is the #1 enemy to Sedevacantism. I love it.
Such a movement to be feared, they are.
If that's the flimsiness of the movement, boys, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Okay, this is a hint here, by the way.
Knickknack.com. Look, here's the deal. You buy knickknacks, and if you visit a Franciscan monastery during the year 2026, you get an indulgence. Okay.
No.
So I'm just
no, you don't.
You do.
But you do get nicotine.
You get nicotine, but you also get an indulgence if you buy knickknacks and go visit a because you get the indulgence for going to the Franciscan monastery. But knickknack.com. Oh, we got the promo code. We got the 10% off promo code, guys.
What we do?
Oh, we do. Hang on.
Did they send it to you?
They sent it to me and not you. Hang on.
Really?
Yeah, man. Because I was bugging him.
Really,
I was bugging him
Nick
about it.
and Caleb. Really, guys? Really?
I was bugging Nick about it. I'm like, dude, I need a promo code. He's like, wait, we got one up and running. Hang on. I got you guys a promo code. It is AB10 is live. Use code. All right. So if you are a first time buyer, use AB 25%. You'll get 25% off your first purchase. If you're a continued user, AB10 is live. You will get 10% off your next Knickknack purchase. We love Knickknack. Nico is awesome. He texted me after one of my shows. He goes, yeah, incredible ad last show. Indulgences for knickknacks all the time. So go buy your knickknacks. Knickknacks do contain nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive substance, which is why you are buying it. They are not a smoking cessation device. And yeah, knickknack.com. AB10 is live. We got it up and running. We are going to go over to discuss Pelican drama on Locals.
Should we send Kennedy one of those T-shirts just as a peace offering?
We're gonna go discuss Pelican drama and Flamingo Minus over on Locals tonight. We're gonna spill some tea. I did text Kennedy today. I spoke with him.
Oh, he did. Because you told me you texted him. You didn't say you responded, so he responded.
He did. No, he responded.
Good.
Yeah. So I extended an olive branch to Kennedy. We're not gonna whatever. We'll do it over on the other side. But yeah, we're gonna discuss Pelican. We'll discuss some personal stories over there. Flamingo Minus merch. When Rob, you want to show it?
Hold on. Let me pull it up here real quick.
So for anybody that doesn't know, Kennedy Hall left Pelican Plus.
He announced it today.
My blood pressure isn't high. I'm sunburned. I just got back from the Cayman Islands, guys. I'm red from sunburn. Oh, somebody, yeah, wait. Oh, yeah. Anthony's blood pressure is obviously high. It's not high. I'm just sunburned.
It's not from the nicotine.
No, it definitely doesn't raise my blood pressure. Honestly, look, I know this was a long-winded. Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
Well, you wanted me to show it, I thought. No?
That shirt will be offered to Locals members only, by the way. If you're a Locals member, you can get that shirt. You're not getting that shirt unless you're a Locals member. I don't know. I gotta let me see something. Hang on. First off, we have 340 people watching on YouTube. Please hit like and subscribe.
Please go to Locals and subscribe if you haven't to Locals.
Yeah, Locals is actually the best place to find us, and we're gonna discuss some stuff over on the other side. Yeah, Trident is imploding. Stephen Cox is right. Trident is imploding. Stephen, I'd be curious to know what your thoughts on tonight's episode were. I'll call you tomorrow and I'll ask you, because I don't know, man. Like I think about this stuff probably way too much, but
yeah,
I find it interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's more interesting than anything anybody else is discussing on their shows. It's like
that's also true.
Like I don't know what other people. I don't know. You gonna listen to Anthony Stein defend Donald Trump again? No. They think that's the funny part. They think the psyop is to overturn the midterms. Like, that's not the psyop, dude. It's not the psyop. If there is a psyop, the whole point of the FBI infiltrating Catholic parishes was because they know Catholics are, as a united force, can take down governments. They've done it many times. All you need is solidarity. So what do they want to do? They want to fracture us, divide us, which, you know, we do a good enough job on our own. But especially when you get most of the people who take their faith seriously are traditional Catholics. Now you get a couple of those traditional Catholic podcasters and influencers going, we need to, Pope Leo's an anti-pope and he's a communist. And it's like, you know, whatever Leo is, none of us should be criticizing the Holy Father if he's a valid pope. That's my position on it. Now, I know some people don't think he's a valid pope, and that's why they criticize him. But to me, that's like, man, you're taking a strong gamble.
You had best be right at that point.
You better be right, man, because if you gotta, and like to convince people of that, and if you're wrong, you better have some real good evidence that he's an anti-pope, and better not just be some theory because he might have said something that wasn't in line with what they said before Vatican. I don't think that's strong enough reason for anyone to be speaking the way these people do about Pope Leo. I just don't. I don't know. I'm not a Pope splainer. I don't defend Leo. I just don't want to say anything that's going to. I'm not facing that, man. If that's Christ's vicar on earth, I'm not doing that. So today's reading at Mass was Blessed Saint Stephen's rebuke of the synagogue against our enemies. Keep the beatific in your heart. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to be on with. Can Anthony get the promo code right? Did I not? He said AB10 was live.
I don't know. Maybe they're just making a joke.
AB10 is live. Sorry for the slow response. We have an in-store discount coming too. So I'll send you that. I'll send that your way when it's live. That's what he said. That's what he texted me. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the hardcore fans of the show probably enjoyed this, but I don't know if we're gonna get any new subs out of it.
Wanted to get your thoughts on the Norbertine Fathers of St. Michael's Abbey in California. We had one of them on the show.
We had one of them on the show. I love those guys.
He wrote a children's book about St. Philomena.
And Rob had just named his daughter Philomena, so we had him on to talk about St. Philomena. I'll tell you that I think that the priests I worry about the most are the diocesan guys, especially the guys who are saying both forms and love tradition. Like my heart goes out to those guys because I know the incredible pressure they're under. But yeah, I think anybody
you guys
AB10
1-0.
I think we need to pray for our priests, man, because I think it's they are going to have the persecution will come upon them the hardest. I think there's going to be incredible pressure for them to go along with some of the things that are probably coming down the pipe. But I still think the city of Rome is safe as long as Peter is there. So if Peter gets removed from there, things are going to get cooking. That's and I think that he is restraining Antichrist. So, all right, we're gonna go over to locals. If you guys are not members, it's gonna be a fun one tonight.
I do have a special outro that Taffy sent me in the middle of this show.
Yeah, I told him to make this.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I told him to make this.
Okay.
Tommy, I hope you're still here, Tommy.
Okay, guys, here's the special.
I hope the Sedes is still in. I hope Tommy and Sede Picante are watching this.